Welcome back to this explainer made by Forge College. So, last time, you might remember we tossed our files into the decentralized void known as IPFS. But today we're building something highly structured and, honestly, absolutely crucial. We're building the server-side machine that actually gets you paid. Let's dive right in and build a merchant integration payment endpoint for Solana.
Here's the schematic for today's build. It's a strict 6-step assembly line. 1. The missing payment link. 2. Catching the request. 3. Composing the instruction. 4. Boxing up the output. 5. Quality control check. And finally, 6. Handoff to the wallet.
All right, starting things off with step 1, the missing payment link.
So if you've already configured your merchant wallet, you basically need the glue, the integration endpoint that connects a customer's front-end request to your back-end. Think of this endpoint like a lazy but highly precise restaurant kitchen. It takes the order ticket, meticulously translates and validates all the ingredients, and composes the meal perfectly. But it absolutely refuses to serve the meal to the customer. No way. It won't sign transactions on behalf of the pair, and it certainly isn't going to pay the network gas fees. It literally just preps the payload. That's it.
Our core philosophy here is super simple. Just treat the endpoint as a translator. It validates inputs, produces a stable instruction, but never ever signs on behalf of the pair. The client's wallet software, that's going to do all the heavy lifting of actually signing the transaction. We just hand the client a perfectly formatted clipboard with the instructions.
Moving right along to step 2, catching the request. Before we can translate anything, we actually have to catch the incoming solana-pay request from the customer. This hits our server as either a URL query string or a JSON payload. Now we're looking for 3 required fields here. First, the amount, which we validate as strictly numeric. Second, the recipient, making sure it's formatted as a valid base58 token account. And third, the reference. This is just a unique string attached so we can actually track who paid for what during later reconciliation.
But what happens if a required field is just missing or totally malformed? We always emphasize strict input validation, so if a client forgets the amount entirely or sends a completely bogus reference ID, how does our machine handle it?
Boom! We hit the factory emergency stop. HTTP 400, bad request. We don't try to guess what the client meant, and we definitely don't pass bad data forward. Instead, we immediately return a clear, machine-readable JSON message that explains exactly what they messed up. This lets the client application handle the failure gracefully instead of just failing silently on the blockchain.
Okay, step 3, composing the instruction.
Once those inputs pass inspection, our server uses a command called transfer checked. It's basically an SPL token program instruction that acts like a strict bouncer. It ensures a precise amount of tokens safely moves to a verified token account, strictly factoring in exact decimals. We pull our merchant's USDC mint address, which uniquely identifies the USDC token, along with our specific receiving token account from our local secure configuration. Then, we use them to build this highly secure instruction.
The beating heart of our endpoint operates in this seamless, efficient 4-step lifecycle. Parse the input, build the SPL token instruction using that transfer check logic, attach the merchant metadata, and finally, return the JSON payload. It's a really rapid transformation from raw incoming data into a ready-to-execute command.
Next up, step 4, boxing up the output.
We can't just toss raw code at the client. We have to structure a neat JSON payload containing 3 main keys. First, the instruction itself. This is the raw data payload for the blockchain to process. Second, the merchant details, which includes our receiving token account. And third, the display metadata. This friendly little order label or thank you message is absolutely crucial for user trust when their wallet suddenly prompts them for a signature.
Almost there. Step 5, quality control check.
Before we actually ship this to production, we need to watch out for a few factory hazards. Missing references? Yeah, you'll never be able to reconcile the payment. Inconsistent API structures? Those will break client integrations entirely. But honestly, the sneakiest bug is using a plain wallet public key instead of an actual token account address for the recipient. If you validate a plain wallet pub key, the transaction is just going to fail on-chain every single time.
And then there's the most important number in our entire schema, the number 6. USDC uses exactly 6 decimals. If you're expecting a payment of $1.25 and you forget to pass along that 6-decimal flag in your payload, well, the customer's wallet might interpret the transaction in atomic units, meaning your customer could end up trying to buy a coffee for a microscopic fraction of a cent. So always be explicit about your decimal handling.
Finally, step 6. Handoff to the wallet.
With all our checks passed, the stable JSON payload is returned to the client. At this point, our endpoint's job is completely done. It just sits back, puts its feet up, while the wallet application takes over. The wallet consumes the JSON, pops up a UI for our cryptographic signature, and submits the actual transaction to the Solana network.
So we have officially built the back-end translator machine. But you know, that leaves one really big, provocative question. Are you ready to see this payment actually execute on-chain? Because right now, we just have a beautifully crafted instruction waiting inside a digital box.
And that brings us perfectly into our next lesson: accepting USDC payments and handling confirmations. If you want to dive deeper into this explainer's full schematics or explore our starter code, head over to forge.college. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer made by Forge College. But before you go, ask yourself this: if our endpoint is strictly just a translator, what happens if the customer's wallet gets hacked before it signs our perfect instruction? Grab your tools, keep building, and we'll solve that exact mystery in the next explainer.